Some time ago now, I had an attempt at engraving, and it went really just completely unsuccessfully. I then tried to do other things to fix it, and that made it worse. So what I thought I would do this time is learn pretty much nothing, try again, only with a much more complicated project in mind. So I actually found I still have the tattered remains of my previous attempt at creativity, and yeah, what I'm going to do So what I'm going to try and do this time is the same again, only on a thicker bit of copper, so that it should actually be possible to engrave it without it all just deforming. The next step, I hope, is that I'm going to try selective electroplating on it. Okay, step one, I have printed off my logo, only teeny wee, so that it will fit on this. I have to cut this out. What I think I'm going to do is just do dots along each line, so that when I take it off, there'll be dots on there that I can just join together to make the original shape. That's what I tried last time, and it didn't work. So let's try it again, because it might do better. So let's crack out the engraver. I should probably sharpen this at some point. Oh, and I need the little engraving cushion, which is what you rest it on. I'm not sure if you can see it, but I've put the dots in and pressed in on all of the lines. So hopefully, if I get rid of all of these, yeah, it has worked. I don't know if you can see it. Okay, now to do some engraving. Let's see if I can do this. Okay, so we've got everything but the... Oh, hello. Okay, so there we go. We've got the outline. The next step is to scoop out so that there's space for all of the different electroplating and enameling things that I'm wanting to do with them. It's surprisingly hard to actually hollow out some of these areas. I wonder if my it's getting blunt. I spend half my time very nearly cutting myself as this thing jumps out of the metal at me. So far, I haven't done it yet, but there's still plenty of time. Right, it's been a while, but I finally got this done, so you can see there's a thing. So what I'm going to do now, I've decided I'm going to selectively electroplate. Okay, correction. I've decided I'm going to try and selectively electroplate this with just a little bit of silver that I have. I have this much silver, and I'm going to see if I can bodge a thing and then see if I can just plate bits and pieces of it. Now, there seem to be lots of people who have done selective electroplating at home on various instructable websites. There's one that seems to be rather more professional than any of the others combined, so I'm going to be trying that today. You can really tell when I'm recording this in the morning, can't you? I just don't have the same voice. It's just like, ma. Okay, so I bought a random assortment of bits and pieces, distilled malt vinegar, and that's a kilner jar that I had already. Real weird reason to buy a kilner jar, but then again, I don't know why I bought it in the first place, so I assume it was for something much more sensible. I've got some silver. That's the strip I bought ages ago for the other jewellery stuff that I never got around to using, and this is, in fairness, roughly what I thought I might use it for. So to do selective electroplating, I bought some electroplating tape. I don't know how you use this. I don't know if it works. It was just called that, so I thought, well, I'll buy that then. So we get to find out whether or not that works. To satisfy the whole electro bit, I found an old wall wart, rigged it together, and I found that it does work because that LED switched on. So I am now pretty sure I have all I need. I'll just rig that together so that it doesn't immediately fall apart like it has done now. I'll be honest, the most useful instructions I saw were actually for plating things with nickel. There's nothing I've seen that suggested that silver wouldn't work. I think I will carry out my standard health and safety procedure. Of course, there's going to be no point in having a fire extinguisher, or I might have it anyway, just because, you know, to cuddle, I don't know, it makes me feel better. But I think the more serious thing that I will be doing is I will be putting it all on the windowsill of health and safety concern. You can tell how uncomfortable I am about doing something by how close I make the test or procedure to that windowsill, because that's the closest bit to a window that opens we have in the house. Let's get going. Oh my word, I'm going to open the window now. Whether or not any of this is a health and safety concern, this amount of vinegar in the room does absolutely nothing for the smell. So this goes up here. Strips of silver. I keep moving my head close to get a better look. I'm just getting greeted with this powerful smell. The light is on. Is anybody home? Oh wow, yeah, bubbles. Now while it's doing this, I will clean off the copper. So quick update, I was about to get on with other things, and then I realised that I'd forgotten to add the pinch of salt. So I added that, and that's just made crazy things happen. It's gone all misty. It was a mist that formed as each bit of salt reacted with the setup, so it's clearly doing things. Well, it's now turned this colour. I'm going to assume that's good. Fascinating. There are one or two little lumpy bits in it which I'm worried about, but not much I can do about it now. So I've had a few cracks at trying to wash this. Oh, actually that worked really well. Oh, amazing. Really does make this whole place smell like a chippy. So I've just taken one of the little slivers of silver, either the anode or the cathode. I've never been able to guess which is which. It now has this funny little skirt around the end of it. Again, my hope is that as I'm being selective, I can block off any bit which is doing weirdness like that. Cool, right, fully taped up now. The next step is to figure out where on earth I did all of the engraving, because I can't see it now because I've covered it up with tape. To be clear, I very much doubt that this is going to work. So let's plug it in and see what happens. Not much left to do but say good luck, everyone. Any bubbles forming? Yes. Okay, so I thought you were supposed to leave it for ages. I've just looked at the instructions and it actually only said you leave it for like 30 seconds. So, hopefully this will be okay. Ooh, So it looks a bit strange. Let's just have a look. It's sort of worked. So firstly I need to clarify that the silver will need cleaning and polishing first. But it's sort of worked. There are definitely bits that have silver on them and bits that don't. I don't know what this black bit here is, but that has actually worked surprisingly well considering. So what I think I'm going to do is maybe off camera tidy this up a bit, and then it should be ready to go on to the next phase. So I actually changed my mind and decided that the silver wasn't really a thick enough layer to work, and it didn't seem to polish right. So what I did is next morning I carried on doing some more electrolysis. Then what happened is it turned out I had plugged them in the wrong way round. So instead of getting all of the silver on the copper, I was starting to get copper on the silver, and it completely undid all of the silver that had been put on the copper. It also meant that I had copper in my electrolyte instead of silver. It had undone all the work before. So what I did is I set it up to do the silver electrolysis again, and then I tried to do the copper again. What I was then finding was actually a huge amount of this nasty stuff, this black lumpy stuff forming on the copper instead of anything like silver. Also, whenever I scraped that lumpy stuff off, there was no silver actually depositing onto the copper at all. It was all just the lumpy stuff that you could brush off quite easily. And yeah, it got more and more involved me trying to figure out why the silver wasn't depositing onto the copper. So, news update. I have just tried again all of those different things, and none of them worked, and realising that none of them work, I have done a little bit more Googling. And what has happened is it turns out that actually, although that all works for copper, which is why it did quite a good job of electroplating copper when I had them the wrong way around, actually it doesn't work for silver. You don't use acetate, you want to use sodium carbonate, which is bicarbonate of soda, which you've cooked for a bit, and hydrogen peroxide. And then that works much more effectively, apparently, if you leave it for a couple of hours. Try that, and if it doesn't work today, then I give up with it. Or, you know what I'm like, we won't give up with it, but we'll give it another go. Just over there is the soda can Stirling engine, and I can see that I'm going to end up with a mantelpiece of half-finished projects because I can never get them to work. Great! Well, after it turned out that for some reason the suppliers and manufacturers of hydrogen peroxide are having problems, so there's a whole string of pharmacists throughout the country which turn out not to have it at the moment. It then turned out, thankfully, that there is a hair salon supply shop a little distance down the road. That is now the juice that all this happens through. Then I needed to get some bicarbonate of soda, which I then need to put in the oven for an hour. Made more annoying by the fact that first time around I accidentally bought baking powder, and then I put it in one of these. This is the closest I could find to the dilution that they use in the instructions I found. And then at some point I need to figure out what on earth I'm gonna do with the blue juice in the Kilner jar. I might put it in a Tupperware box, but by the sounds of it, it's completely useless. So, who knows? Why? I've given myself more time so I can do these weekly nonsenses over a course of a few weeks, and yet it still seems to be the day I'm supposed to be finishing editing the video is the day when I'm realising that none of it works. doesn't look a great deal different, but I'll assume it's worked. Okay, so far this smells better than using the vinegar, but I genuinely have no idea what hydrogen peroxide smells like, so I then have no idea what percentage of these is. They said to get it to a pH of 11, but I have no idea how I'd reach that. Wear suitable gloves when applying. Avoid contact with eyes. Okay, we're not talking too dangerous. My health and safety procedure in this case, if it starts fizzing a lot, is to run away. Got to have a plan. It's still quite warm. I don't know if it matters how warm it is. Whatever. Wait a minute. Oh no. Fine, whatever. So what's happened is that I saw these different percentages of hydrogen peroxide and thought, great, I can play around with the percentages. But I didn't read the label properly, did I? It's hydrogen peroxide cream, which contains aqua, hydrogen peroxide, cetearyl alcohol, paraffinum liquidum, sodium mineral sulfate, sodium salicylate, and citric acid. So yes, it has the right chemicals, but it has a bunch of other things as well. This isn't gonna work, is it? It's bubbling at least. Solid, I'll give it a go. Whatever. Seeing how it's foaming at the moment, there's clearly all sorts of other reactions going on in there. Or maybe there are other reactions going on there. I don't really know. Let's just see what happens. By the window of concern. They talked about needing to come back every so often and clean bits up and sand bits off. I'll leave it there then and see what happens. Okay, good news and bad news. The good news is that it actually seems like it might be working all the same. The bad news is that because it's a cream, gases being formed can't escape, and so it's just inflating the whole way. Oh, and at this rate, it's gonna corrode all of the... Not on the curtains. I said it might be working because it seemed like there was a residue forming on the silver that looked like it might be the right sort of thing. But looking at the copper end, I'm not seeing a huge amount has happened, so it might not be working. Okay, I'm gonna leave that a bit longer again. Don't think there's much I can do about it. Right, yes. This is also a thing. Is this working? Has this worked at all? No, it hasn't worked. I have absolutely no idea how whatever happened with the first version that convinced me that it had worked. Because it shouldn't have. At no point should any of this been successful. So what I think it is that one of the random unhelpful things in the hydrogen peroxide cream is what caused something to not work here. You're supposed to get the pH to 11, which is quite strongly alkaline, and there's citric acid in the thing, so that's probably one of them. I think we might have to call it there. Well, I hope you've enjoyed my continued self-inflicted torture. Tune in next time for when I buy some proper hydrogen peroxide off the internet and actually tried something that works roughly as they say it's supposed to. Like and subscribe and all of that. Do well, have a day.